Hi fiber friend, I'm so excited that you're joining me today. This is the second video in a series. In the first video, I showed you how my husband made a skirting table and I skirted a fleece. That fleece is the subject of this video series. It's a fleece that I picked up for free when my husband and I went to get some farm eggs. This fleece was never intended to be a spinner's fleece. It was sheared because the sheep needed to be sheared and it got stuffed in a feed bag to go in the barn. But I took it because I wanted to see what I could do with it. It was in rough shape. If you haven't seen that first video, I suggest that you go check that out. Now today I'm going to scour a sample of the fleece and see what exactly I have to work with. It is absolutely drenched with lanolin. I feel like I could wring the fleece and it would just drip with lanolin. It is thick. So I'm going to take a sample of the fleece, scour it, and see what's really under all of that lanolin and vegetable matter and dirt. To start with, I'm rinsing off this fleece. I have it placed in the basket portion of a salad spinner, and I use this for dyeing and scouring wool. I don't use it for salad. So to begin, I'm just going to rinse this fleece and see how much dirt I can get out before actually adding the scour soap to the water. Sometimes people say a pre-soak doesn't really make a difference because it's going to get scoured anyway, but I kind of like to see how much, look at that. I like to see how much dirt comes out without soap. I feel like it gives me a visual of the layers of things in the fleece. This water's pretty nasty. This is my second rinse, just with water. No soap added yet. And when I can see large pieces of vegetable matter, I'm going to go ahead and pull those out as well. Someone missed their dinner. Now that I've rinsed the wool a couple times, I'm getting my scour bath ready. I'm filling my container with hot water. It's about 125 to 130 degrees. And I'm going to add some detergent. There's a lot of lanolin, so I'm adding a good amount. I'm using this palm olive. It's comparable to the Blue Dawn. I haven't had any problems with it being too harsh with wool in the past. And this is not a fine fleece like a merino would be, so I don't think that it's going to be a problem. But in case it is, this is why I'm sampling, because I won't ruin an entire fleece. So now I have my bath ready. I'm setting the basket into that scouring water and letting it just soak into the fleece without disturbing the actual wool. I don't want to get my hands in there and scrunch it and squoosh it as much as I really want to feel like I'm scrubbing it and getting all that out of there. I just need to let it sit. Maybe a tiny poke to keep it under the water, but that's all it needs. I'm just gonna let it sit. Hands off, it's so hard. It's so hard, I wanna scrub it. Now that it has been sitting for about 10 minutes, I'm going to check and see where we're at. I don't want to let it sit for too long because then the water temperature starts to cool down. This container isn't very large, and so it won't hold the temperature for too long. Next, I'm going to drain that mucky scour water out. In a small batch like this, I do let it go down the drain. If you have a septic system, however, just don't put it down the drain. Not a great idea. Since we're still kind of mucky, I'm going to go ahead and scour it one more time. I probably had a little too much wool for the amount of space it had to sit in this bowl, but I'm sampling this, so we'll see what we get. After letting it sit for a few minutes, this water is coming out fairly clear. So I think that all of the muck that the scouring solution is going to remove is probably removed. I did give it a rinse just to get that extra soap out of there, detergent technically, and now I'm going to spin it in my salad spinner. Spinny spin spin to to get as much water out of it as I can. It will dry faster that way. And here it is. The water has been spun out as much as possible, and this is what I still have. It's very full of VM. But I can see these white sections that the lanolin had colored yellow previously. That lanolin is removed, but this is just a heavy VM fleece. It has a lot of VM in it. I'll definitely be working on this with my combs. It's really trapped in those tips, and I'll need to comb that to get the VM out. But for a first wash, for a first sampling, I think this gave me some good information. I know that I'll need to work on these tips if I want to reduce the processing later. I'll see what I can do about that. But it looks like the palm olive worked fine. It was able to break down the lanolin and remove it from the wool. Scouring success, vegetable matter challenge. The wool is now dry from this morning's scour adventure, and I'm excited to show you how it turned out. Let's check out some side-by-side before and after pictures. I originally thought that this fleece had some canarying on it, which is a yellowing of the wool itself, and it can't be washed out. It stays yellow like that. And it's from the conditions of humidity and moisture and bacteria and lanolin sitting for a while over time. It can cause the fleece to turn yellow. After I got this scoured, it really did come out very white. So I think that a lot of that yellowness I saw, I thought was canarying, was just really thick lanolin. The tips, on the other hand, are a different story. The tips are a mess. There is so much vegetable matter in there. I tried to sort of tease them open a little bit while I was scouring, but I really felt like I was having to get a little bit aggressive to get them to truly open up. So I'm going to see what I can do to flick these open and use the wool combs on them to get this vegetable matter out, because it's really stuck in those tips. So I'll play with it and see where I end up. But that's a video for another day. Thank you so much for watching this little scouring sample adventure. I hope to see you in the next video in this series. Eventually, I hope I'll be making some socks with this wool. Let's see what happens. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to support the channel. I'll see you next time. Happy spinning!